Well, these next 6 games wasn't as good as the first 6. There's unfortunately one game sticks out for the wrong reasons, which is why these guys are going to be necessary when I get to that game. But, you know, I think the middle game wasn't good, but the Flames did show some upside here. So anyway, let's start a goalie controversy, as it's time for another episode of... Hi there, it's Brett Hornby here. Welcome back to another episode of my Calgary Flames in 6. As I indicated in the opening here, episode 3 I don't think is going to be as good as episode 2, but we're still early in the season, and fortunately every team has that one very ugly game there that I'll get to, but I got some help here to get me through it when we get there. But you know, if you enjoy my sports takes, sports recaps, I mean, I also have the Calgary Hitmen in 6 series going on, and my Calgary Stampeders this month. And when December rolls around, I'll have my Calgary Roughnecks this month when lacrosse season gets going. So I have that, and plus all my scenery videos and personal vlogs and anything else that's on my mind. That's all up on my channel, so make sure you hit like, subscribe here. But anyway, let's get back into my Calgary Flames in 6. This episode, for episode 3, will be concentrated on games 7 through 12 here. And as I've decided going forward here, I make my notes all on Google Docs here. I mean, for example, I can do it at lunchtime and do it on the go here, so it's all ready to go. So all I need to do is get home and set everything up, and let's get going here. So let's cue up my my notes here. So let's start off with game number 7 here. This happened on Friday, October the 19th. That was a 7 p.m. puck drop at the Scotiabank Saddledome at home. The Calgary Flames took on the Nashville Predators. The other thing I'll mention on this, should mention for this next 6-game stretch here, is that the strength of the schedule definitely has been a test for the Flames here, but it's how they respond with some of these games that still gets me thinking they're still at a crossroads here. But get back to game 7 here, Friday, October 19th against the Nashville Predators. This game, the Nashville Predators got the better of the Flames by winning 5-3. This game happened back and forth. I mean, the Flames always kept coming back to tie it up, but the Predators always seemed to get ahead, and then it looked like maybe the Calgary Flames could have gotten a little break here, because Pecorini, their all-star goalie for the Nashville Predators, you know, got hurt in that game. So you see Saros came in, but he actually saved the day for the Nashville Predators. And the one highlight we can address in this game is that Sam Bennett had a strong game, and you know, he's off to a slow start, and we're still figuring out what kind of game he provides after drafting him 4th overall in 2014. But you know, he's still worth keeping him around to develop. I mean, he's more of a checking forward anyway, but depends where they insert him in the lineup here too. But the thing is, we have a lot of offense that's established right now, especially in the top lines here. But you know, Sam Bennett, he definitely had a nice game here despite the loss. So that was game 7 against the Nashville Predators. I could also say maybe this is the sports god's way of paying us back, because we definitely stole one in Nashville there earlier this month, where Calgary was outshot on a ratio of 2-1 here. So anyway, the Flames go on the road here for a couple games here. For game 8, happened on Sunday, October 21st. This is one place I definitely would love to catch an NHL game, or maybe an event, but definitely a hockey game. They went to Madison Square Garden to take on the New York Rangers, and that game started at 5 p.m. And this was definitely a game that the Calgary Flames showed up and took advantage of the New York Rangers, because right now they're in a rebuild, and these are definitely games that we should take advantage of, especially if you want to make the playoffs is, only half the teams make the playoffs here, but the Flames definitely had a great game that game. David Riddick started in that game, and he definitely was a wall for the Flames in the third period. He made 44 saves in the victory, including facing 20 shots in the third period alone when the Rangers were really firing. Both Johnny Gaudreau and Garnet Hathaway had 2 goals each, as the Calgary Flames won this one 4-1. And this is where I say let's start a goalie controversy here, but so far what I've seen, in preseason, it was preseason that you knew Mike Smith was going to be the starting goalie coming into the season here, but he looked shaky in preseason, but you think that's preseason, but Mike Smith, he's definitely either been very hot or very cold here, and as I get through the video here, I do think that David Riddick definitely deserves more starts as time goes on, as he definitely was huge for the Flames in the victory against New York Rangers. So then, while still on this road trip for Game 9, they went to the Bell Center in Montreal, where the original plan was that Riddick and Smith were going to divide the duties on the road here, which is generally normal, but this was 2 games and not back-to-back nights. But David Riddick, with his strong performance against New York Rangers, he earned himself another start. But the only difference between the game in New York and the game in Montreal is that, unfortunately, as the old saying goes, when you have a great goalie but didn't win the game and didn't support enough, as he was left to dry here, and that's exactly what happened in Montreal here, that the Calgary Flames lost this one 3-2 against Montreal. Riddick played a great game in net, but the Flames, as a team in front of him, looked a little flat, and it was just a 3-4 minute stretch in the second period there where Montreal got all 3 goals there, which is definitely deflating for the Flames. But they were able to get one in the third period to make it 3-2, but fortunately weren't able to tie it up or win the game here. The only couple positives I can get out of the Flames out of this game is that Riddick played a strong game in back-to-back starts, and both Matthew Tkachuk and Michael Backlund had 2 assists each. But Montreal, it's been one of those places that the Flames have had a lot of trouble in recent years. A couple of years ago, there was that famous incident where, I wouldn't say an incident, but the turning point of the season in 2017 was Calgary played a bad game against the Montreal Canadiens in Montreal, and Glenn Nicholson at the time said the Flames looked pathetic, and this was that train ride where the team were having beers on the train, and then they went on to win 10 games in a row, and that pretty much salvaged the Flames to get into the playoffs that year. But Bill Peters also said that it was a wasted effort for the Calgary Flames against the Montreal Canadiens here. But, that's Game 9. But before I get to Game 10 here, I have to do this because it wasn't pretty. So let me, and kids, if you're watching, have some extra sugar in your Kool-Aid here. But I need to consume this first because this game is not going to be pretty, what I'm going to talk about next. So bear with me. Have some JD, you get the spirit of the Calgary Stampede already. Oh yeah. Well, almost there. Woo! Anyway, excuse me. I need that, as we gotta talk about this next game here, and even good JD isn't going to make this one pretty, but Game 10, the Calgary Flames went back home at the Scotiabank Saddledome on Thursday, October the 25th. They took on the Pittsburgh Penguins. First, one of the bigger tests of the year. Penguins always look like they're great contenders and chance to see Sidney Crosby on the ice, but as I said, I had my JD because this one was ugly, 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 like very ugly. The Flames Lost this one 9-1. Yes, you heard that right. 9-1. This was definitely the worst game on home ice since 2000, where the Flames lost 8-0 against the San Jose Sharks. That was 18 years ago, and I know the worst loss all time on home ice was back in 1996. The Flames lost to the Edmonton Oilers 10-1, and I remember that game stood out because 10 different players scored for the Edmonton Oilers that game, and that was definitely one of those games. And I do remember I was a young guy one time. I was definitely not too happy with the performance. Unfortunately, I was too young to have some good stuff, hard stuff to get through the game. But I remember being at a game where the Flames lost 9-1 against the Detroit Red Wings, and that was back when the Red Wings, had Steve Yzerman, and they didn't win their cups yet, but they had the pieces there. But this was at a time when the Flames were slowly dismantling from their '89 team, and Detroit had pieces on their team that helped them win their cups, in 96, 97, or 97, 98, and then 2002. But, this one was ugly. Mike Smith was chased after 5 goals. It was 7-0 after 2 periods for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And one reason that makes Sidney Crosby so great is that even though when Pittsburgh was up 7-0, he was still held in the team accountable for not playing hard, even though they had a 7-0 lead. And Mike Sullivan was trying to keep his composure as head coach. But things that stood out was Patrick Hornquist, Phil Kessel had 2 goals each. And I mentioned that Sidney Crosby guy. He had a goal, 2 assists for 3 points, and Derek Brassard had 3 assists. I mean, those are the numbers that stood out. The only numbers that I can give for the Flames is that James Neal was able to get, it's been his 2nd goal of the season. Most of the time he's been on the 3rd line since he's with the Calgary Flames, but he hasn't looked like he's fit in just yet with the Flames, but he hasn't done much to warrant playing out higher up on the lineup other than the 3rd line, especially with the offense that the Flames have had up to this point. But this game was definitely a huge exception. But the other positive I can mention is that, if I can, is that Travis Hamonic, the defenseman, he returned in the lineup from his facial fracture that he suffered on the opening night there. So he got back into the lineup after missing a couple weeks there. But this is definitely one of those games where it was a huge loss. Every team seems to have their bad loss of the year. If I'm not mistaken, I think the Pittsburgh Penguins opening night, I think they put up 10 goals, or they allowed 10 goals against the Montreal Canadiens, and everyone was stunned. But before I move on from this game, I need to have some dessert here, because let's have some Baileys here. This definitely was not pretty, but hopefully this is the only game. But this was definitely ugly on epic proportions and historical proportions of all the years that the Calgary Flames have been in Calgary. So I'm going to have some Bailey's Irish Cream for dessert here as a reward for getting through this ugly game here. And also, football season heading to the playoffs of the CFL. If it's a cold game, definitely love to have this with my hot chocolate or coffee here. So let me finish off my dessert here. Oh yeah, it's good. The ugly part's over, but I actually got a little better news here. So once I bring back my notes here, as we got 2 more games to recap. So game 11, this is when Calgary played actually Saturday afternoon after their beatdown against the Pittsburgh Penguins here. This happened Saturday, October 27th. Back home at the Scotiabank Saddledome, 2 p.m. start. The Calgary Flames took on the defending Stanley Cup champions, the Washington Capitals. So they got to see Crosby do his thing the one night, and then you got Alexander Ovechkin the next game in the afternoon here. And I'd say the Flames rebounded big time, made some positive strides after being beat down by the Pittsburgh Penguins here. They decided to start Mike Smith in net, and can't really evaluate goaltending. That's definitely what Bill Peters said for the Calgary Flames here. But Washington took a quick 2-0 lead, and saying here we go again. But the Flames fought back, and it was tied at 2 after 1, and Washington had a 3-2 lead for most of the game, and then Matthew Tkachuk, with less than a minute and a half left in the third period, got a delay of the game. Washington had to delay a game penalty. Calgary's on the power play, so they pulled the goalie, and Rasmus Andersson had a nice shot, and Matthew Tkachuk tipped it in, tied the game at 3, and went to overtime. Shootout. Eventually went to a shootout because overtime didn't solve anything, and the Flames did lose 4-3 in a shootout. Went to the fourth round of the shootout when Nicholas Backstrom scored the winner, but considering that we were playing the Washington Capitals, and they still are considered as a cup contender there because they still have pieces from their team that won the Stanley Cup, and getting beat down against the Pittsburgh Penguins a couple nights before, I'd say it's a nice rebound. Now, after that, the Calgary Flames go back on the road here for a couple games, and they played Monday, October the 29th. Actually, I guess now it's called the Scotiabank Arena. I think I said Air Canada Centre in the last video when I was looking ahead on the schedule here, but the Calgary Flames are taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs, and that's another big test for this Flames team because the Toronto Maple Leafs are one of the favorites to be a contender for the Stanley Cup this year, one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, and one of the highest scoring teams in the league, up there with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and they definitely shown that they can score goals for the wrong reasons, but the Flames definitely held their form here and outplayed the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Maple Leafs were playing their first game without Austin Matthews with a shoulder injury, and he's going to be out for 4 weeks, as they're saying, but they still have lots of players that can score on that team, but the Calgary Flames definitely did a great job shining down, and Mike Smith, he's definitely trying to redeem himself after a slow start, and really stinking up the joint against the Penguins there, plus, David Riddick. Hopefully his strong play is pushing him so we can have a nice tandem here for the whole season, but the Calgary Flames won this one 3-1 here. Both Sean Monahan and Elias Lindholm, both fellow draftees in the 2013 draft, scored 55 seconds apart, and that pretty much sealed it for the Flames. Well, after when the Maple Leafs scored to make it 2-1, there was an optical illusion there that looked like they tied it up there, but the puck was at the side of the net on the outside, and everyone was fooled, but when they reviewed it, no goal because the puck wasn't in the net. So, and then Michael Frolik buried the empty netter, so the Flames take this one 3-1. So, other than that very, very ugly game and a couple tough losses, the Flames were 2-3-1 this 6-game segment. When we're talking about games 7 through 12. So overall, the Flames were 6-5-1, which they're still. I still say they're at a crossroads here because they look pretty good in the first 6 games, and then the last 6 games they were really up and down, with the one game where they really were down. But every team seems to have that one very, very rock bottom moment where you get blown out. But hopefully that's it, and I don't want to be drinking like that every video. So that's for the next 6 games that we're looking ahead at the schedule. This will be episode 4, when I'll be recapping games 13 to 18. So if you look ahead to the schedule here, actually right now as a recording, I try to have these videos recorded and up before the next game they play, but that's not always possible if they play back-to-back, and work, life gets in the way, but it really won't make the difference in the final product when I do the review. But game 13, Tuesday, October 30th, Calgary jumps over to Buffalo to take on the Buffalo Sabres at the key Bank Center, 5 p.m. puck drop. And then they come home for a couple games here on Thursday, November the 1st. This will be game 14. The Calgary Flames will take on the Colorado Avalanche, which is definitely one of the big Central Division teams that we could potentially be chasing for a wild card spot. I mean, especially pundits say that the Central Division is a lot tougher than the Pacific, and there might be 5 teams in the Central that make the playoffs, and so top 3 in the Pacific is the way to go. But that's another possibility to look at. So that's a 7 p.m. puck drop on Thursday, November the 1st. And then Saturday, November the 3rd, the Calgary Flames take on the Chicago Blackhawks. Hockey night in Canada. And that's definitely going to be a tougher game because Chicago is looking like they're back with Corey Crawford in net, and Jonathan Toews doing his scoring thing. But then after they spend a couple games at home here, they make a California trip, was definitely going to be more teams to watch out for in the standings. Fellow division rivals, all in California here on Wednesday, November the 7th, game 16. They'll get to go to the Honda Center. The dreaded Honda Center, 8:30 p.m. puck drop. All these times are mountain. There's definitely no secret that the Flames have definitely struggled in that arena, but they were able to get that one win last year, so hopefully start small and eventually maybe the tides return, because some pundits say that the Anaheim Ducks are getting older and they might miss the playoffs. And then game 17, Saturday, November the 10th, they go to the Staples Center to take on the Los Angeles Kings, and I think the Kings are making the mistakes that these guys made, holding on to their championship team too long. But the LA Kings are definitely really off to a slow start, and actually the bottom in the Western Conference are one of the bottom teams. So this is definitely one of those teams that we should take advantage of while they're down and out, especially division rival. These could come back later in the season. And then game 18, Sunday, November 11th, the next night, the Calgary Flames are at the SAP Center against the San Jose Sharks with a 7 p.m. puck drop, and that's definitely another division rival that would be a nice test to see where this team is at, because the San Jose Sharks have been picking up their play and showing they're living up to their full potential, especially with Erik Karlsson and that big trade here. So, there's definitely some huge implications here after they played a game against Buffalo with a couple bubble teams on the Central Division, and then California, which is always tough to be playing through California. As beautiful as the state is, the hockey teams are always been tough, and they've been tough the last few years. So we'll see how this breaks down when we get to episode 4 for games 13 to 18. So anyway, let's quickly look over some stats here for the Calgary Flames. As I'll bring up the scoring leaders here, team leaders here, but and let's go over a couple goalie numbers here as well for the Calgary Flames. But right now, Johnny Gaudreau is leading the team with 15 points, followed by Matthew Tkachuk with 13, and Elias Lindholm and Sean Monahan are both tied with 12 points for the top 3. These are just points overall. Goals, Elias Lindholm leads the team with 8 goals, and Johnny Gaudreau and Sean Monahan and Michael Frolik are all tied for second with 5 goals. And then when it comes to assists here, Johnny Gaudreau leads the team with 10 assists, so he has 5 goals. And then you got Matthew Tkachuk and Mark Giordano tied for second with 9 assists each. So now what's interesting here is that when we get to the goalies here, David Rittich has a .237 goals against average, and Mike Smith has a .355 goals against average. David Rittich's save percentage is actually .933, while Mike Smith is .878. So, it's a smaller sample size. Smith has 4 wins, Rittich has 2, and then Smith has that one shutout in that game that he stole in Nashville there. But, there's still a little bit of a goaltending controversy here, but that when David Rittich has come in, he's played well, and Mike Smith, hopefully that Pittsburgh game was rock bottom because he's looked strong since that being pulled against Pittsburgh. But time will tell there. I mean, Mike Smith definitely played well for Calgary the first half of the season. Then he was so-so, and then eventually he got hurt, unfortunately, which killed our playoff chances. But how I can sum up the Flames right now is that our top line is definitely showing they can score, and definitely our defense has been up and down because we still allow over 30 plus shots in net, which is still kind of credible considering the personnel we have on the blue line there. I mean, yeah, we traded away, gave up some offense with Dougie Hamilton, but Noah Hannafin, I mean, he's still a middle pair defenseman, but we also lost Travis Hamnick here, who's working his way back in the lineup, and then actually you have Rasmus Andersson and Yusuf Valimaki still actually playing together on the bottom pair, and that's definitely been a nice bottom pair to show progression in our system. And actually, I looked this up before the video about our special teams, that our penalty kill actually is down 27th in the league as of this recording, and our power play is 20th, so hopefully we're going to get improving both of that. I mean, that was one of the reasons why the coaching changes was made, and also if you don't make the playoffs, changes are inevitable. But anyway, that's my Calgary Flames in 6 here. So as I say, if you enjoy all my content that I put on my channel, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and if you enjoy all my other Calgary sports stuff, make sure you watch the my Calgary Hitman videos, my Calgary Stampeders videos, and all my sports takes. And I've been putting out more personal blogs, and I got all of my scenery videos up that I have up to this point here. But as we get into November here, CFL playoff season is going to start, and I'll plan to do some playoff previews of the East and West semifinals, and the East and West final, and the Grey Cup itself, and maybe even capture some moments at the Grey Cup itself. So make sure you stay tuned to my channel. As I always say, see you at the next video.